Good evening, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, a touchy subject for a lot of people, and that is the subject of getting sick and possibly dying. Well, not possibly dying, because eventually we'll all make it that way, won't we? Never worry about dying, because it will happen without your help, or probably it may be about to happen because of your help in the past. Now, I am approaching 80 years old, and that's on the 22nd. That's not a plea for birthday presents. I have all I need. I'm a very fortunate man. What we're really talking about is how to deal with getting older. And boy, if you are even at the age of 45, you're actually laying all of the foundation for the kind of old age that you're going to face, if you're lucky enough to face it. Because many of the people that tell me about how I should live, what I should eat, and how I should exercise and take it easy and do this and do that, will quite possibly never make it to my age. I'm one of the fortunate ones. Now, what did I do which in retrospect cannot be changed, but nevertheless has influenced how I am enjoying my life to the extent that I am right now? And it's wise to know these things. Now, I'm not going to be politically correct, okay? You'll have to go somewhere else for that. But the way that I see it is that if you put on a lot of weight, you're going to be stacking up problems for yourself later. Now, I try to put this in a kind of a mechanical way. You know, if you go and have a door fitted in your house, and you tell the man who's going to fit it for you that these are the hinges, and you hold up a pair of tin hinges, the ones that you can get at the 99-cent store or any such, the Chinese store we always call it here in the Philippines. Now in Taliban we call it the Chinese store. And you can go there, and instead of paying, say, well, let's invent the prices, because I don't carry an inventory price list around in my head, but let's say that your good hinges were going to cost $10, and you could probably go to the Chinese store and buy them for $3 or $4. What will the difference be? Well, the difference will be that they're engineered for a different door. And when you hand these hinges to your carpenter who's going to fit the door for you, and he then says, "Can I see the door?" and you offer him a hardwood door that weighs considerably more than one of these plywood packed doors. So you need to have a hinge. You need to have a hinge that is made to carry the weight that you're asking it to carry. Now, when I did some exercises for a video a little while ago, I showed doing what I call assisted squats. That's where you squat down as if you're going to sit on the toilet, and you squat down and try to get your bum on the ground and then get back up again. The actual going down is not so it's not so hard. The getting back up again provides challenges, whatever age you're at. And somebody remarked in the comments, yes, we were able to have comments in those days a few months ago. He said, "Terence, you've got good knees." Well, I tend to look at it this way. I'm about 145 pounds. 145 pounds. I don't know what it is in kilos, but you've got a computer or a phone. What the hell? Look it up. And that's not a whole lot different to when I was 20 years old, which is nearly 60 years ago. So the joints in my knees are coping with really what they were designed to do. Now, if during your good times, eating out and having exactly what you wanted to have, you probably put on some pounds. Now, try to look at the putting on pounds in terms of it's a numbers game that you're adding on every so often, right? Now, don't hold me to having accurate ratios in the figures that I give you, but just look at the idea of it. If you have 2 Cokes a day, I believe, that's about 200 calories. It's about 200 calories. If you have that every day, and maybe 3 on Sunday or Saturday and Sunday, what are we kind of looking at then? 200. Let's say 2 7s, 14, 140 kilos, and possibly a couple of extra ones. We're looking at 160 pounds, right? 160 kilos. I gotta start this one again. Can we cut this out, Beth?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we looking at? Times 7, 200 or 300 calories a day extra that you really don't need is looking at, probably 150, 160, possibly 200 calories a week that you don't need, times 4, times 52. Work it out. It's going to be a lot of calories that you're going to have sit there on your those joints that are really not they're not designed to do what you're expecting them to do, but you're adding those on. Now let's say that those calories just on the Coke are more than you need. It means that at the end of the year you will have put on a certain number of pounds that you didn't need and have not noticed. This is the point. You don't notice it. Now, if things start to get a little bit tight, if you understand me, you just move up, and instead of looking for size 32 waist, you start looking for a size 34 waist. Because let's go for comfort. We're getting on in the years now, aren't we? So you add to that with the cakes and the cookies and the other things which make life a pleasure, let's face it. You're looking at the end of a year, at the end of a month, at the end of a week, with some excess poundage that you never needed, that is not doing you any good and is actually making life difficult. Now, just to give you an idea, you've all seen sumo wrestlers. Now, it's in their interest to put on huge amounts of poundage. Now, if you look at them, they've got more fat on their thighs than will allow for the legs to come together. Those guys, as much as they can throw around a 400-pound, 500-pound opponent, cannot walk more than possibly a few hundred feet because their thighs are chafing on each other, and it will not be good. So you're going to have a certain amount of that as well. In that movie that I've recommended many times, Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, the man in there that was a secondary success story. He was a truck driver, and he weighed 300 or 400 pounds. He knew that he was going to die if he didn't do something. So he started onto the juicer, and without going into praising the juicer, he lost a lot of weight to the extent that he gave up being a truck driver and started to public speak. And he used to go around and he used to show people how much weight he used to carry that they themselves would be able to relate to. And he did this by carrying around, it was about 6 or 8 bowling balls. Right, so that's something that's bigger than your head and weighs an awful lot more. And that was how he demonstrated. He said, look at all those bowling balls, and he'd have them lined up behind him. That's how much extra weight, not weight, extra weight he was carrying. Now, he couldn't, when he started on the juicing and doing a little exercise, he couldn't walk for much more than a few hundred feet, just like the sumo wrestlers. He just couldn't walk because the amount of poundage that he had was putting that much extra stress on the joints. Now, it's not just your knees. I mean, it's everything: elbows, shoulders, your neck. These are all joints. Your back. You've got a pelvis in there on which the spine is connecting, and all of this stuff all works properly together when it's kept to the design specification of weight, and it all works very well. Now, this is not necessarily, it's not a talk about keeping the weight off, but it's an observation that those people who carry their age very badly are usually people who have neglected to keep an eye on their weight. So they've started off, and a lot of people that I know started off, and if they were big people, they were football players at school. They were athletes. These were guys who were weightlifters, went to the gym, and did a lot. And now they have pruned down a little, maybe, or maybe they haven't. It depends. As one of our guests the other day said, I could probably shed quite a few pounds if I could stop drinking my couple of beers a day that I enjoy. I guarantee that if he's confessing to a couple of beers, he probably has more. And that goes straight to the gut, and the gut starts to move outwards, and then your internal organs are not being held in place. I like to think of the stomach muscles as being like this. This is your kind of your six-pack that people love to talk about, and that's there that's there to hold everything in. Right, well, it's not able to do it as efficiently if it's got a 50 pound or 20 or 30 or 40 pound equivalent of a bowling ball hanging on the front there. So if you're looking to have a quality older age, then keep a check on your weight. That's the first thing. The other thing is that it's a fine line between realizing that something shouldn't be done because of age and shouldn't not be done. In other words, shouldn't be shied away from because of the age that you're at. And people have different ideas about what you should and shouldn't give up when you start to get older. And 45 to 50, depending if you're a drinker and like your beers, it will be 45, I can guarantee. And as you reach up into 50, you've already started to atrophy, and you're not going to have the muscle. Now, when that happens, you start slowing down. You don't walk as fast. You're going to be bent over slightly in the back. You're not going to be walking as erect. You're not going to be holding your stomach in. Well, you are going to be holding your stomach in, but it's not going to. So when you hold your stomach in and it doesn't, that's a warning sign. Okay, so all of the drinking and the smoking will all be, you'll get the bill for that later. A friend of mine who was an active man, but he was in his mid-late 70s, and he said that as soon as he got to the age of 70, everything started going bad. Some people can last out a lot longer and others cannot, but if you've had your fun early in life and done the drugs, if you've been quick to take a pill when you have a headache or a pain or an ache, if you have taken prescription drugs, if you've taken street drugs, if you've had your fun in that way, if you like hard liquor, if you like a really good whiskey, sorry, you'll pay for it. And if you put the weight on and you're what's called chubby, that's a phrase that is, or a description for someone who doesn't want to admit that they're actually overweight. Now in America, I believe that because I spent time in America, I believe that the obesity level is up around 60%. And when I talked to people who were up towards and around 60, 50, 60, 65, they've already started slowing down, they're putting the weight on, they're excusing it. It's not politically correct to say to someone, you really need to lose weight, you are fat. You can't say these things, but that's really what they need to see. That's what they need to hear, is that they're getting fat. Now people say to me, well, you're skinny. My brother had a little bit of weight on. He used to call me a chicken wing. He used to say, you've always been like a chicken wing, meaning that I'm skinny. But I have a gut that I don't like, but it probably is not considered a gut by anybody who's got, say, 30 or 40 pounds. Just imagine that, 30 or 40 pounds that they could do with losing. So all of it will escalate, and it will come in as the bad news as you get slightly older. Now that will show in the face, it will show in the neck, it will show in your gut, it will show in how mobile you are, it will show in how agile you are, how quick you are, whether you can take a joyful walk. A lot of people now, in America, I used to hear them telling people, you should really start to exercise, and a good way to start is to park the car at the far end, at the far corner of Walmart, and walk to Walmart. Ooh, what a challenge. But that's what they were up for. So don't do it. And if it's already done, you need to start looking now ahead. Put yourself ahead and look back to this time. So you're going back into the future, right? You're going to go ahead and you're going to look 5 years ahead, and you're going to say, what did I do that I wish I hadn't? And then you're going to change, if you have any sense. I make a joke and say, if I was still under guarantee, I'd send myself back. But actually, I'm doing okay. But I still have work to do, and intend and do it. I work an entirely full day, and I still have a great life. And now I realise that all of those guys in the bands that I was in who didn't think that I knew how to party, one very close friend of mine says, "You're not in the A-team, you don't know how to have fun." And I've had that levelled at me. You don't know how to have fun. Well, all of that fun has killed quite a few of the people that I knew who were having all of that fun when I wasn't. And so I paid my dues then, and now I'm reaping some of the benefit, not a terrific amount, but enough to make me glad that I did stay away from drugs. I never did drugs, never really got into drinking. When I was a young man, you know, that time when you like to brag about how drunk you got last night. Oh, was I ever drunk last night? What did I do? I mean, I can't remember. And you brag, and that's part of the young man thing, isn't it? But I never really got into it. I quickly realised that feeling terrible the next day was not enough for the kind of fun that you had the night before. So I didn't do it. Prescription drugs? No, I never took. If I had a headache, well, I had a headache and it would eventually go. I never got into the idea of aspirin or any of these quick pills because you've got a headache. I never got into it. And now I think that I benefit from that and still don't take any of those pills. So that's my little rant on staying in good shape so that you can look forward to a better kind of quality of life when you get a little bit older. And that's part of it too, is not to think of yourself as ancient, but just a little bit older. Well, I'll be a little bit older on the 22nd when I'm 80 years old. I think I'm doing okay, although I really would like to do better, and I'll be working at that. Thanks for looking in. This is a foreigner in the Philippines.